to the formal meeting of the Salt Lake City Council for July 9th, 2019. The first item that we have for business, if you would all stand with us and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. So before we start, I just want to go over the standards of conduct for this meeting. So we ask that what we try to do at the City Council is ensure that we have a place where everybody is free and comfortable to express their opinions, even if they differ from ours, differ from yours, differ from each other's. We just want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable being able to represent their thoughts and concerns. So to do this, we ask that you don't clap, applaud, cheer, jeer, boo, snap, do anything else to show or either to show support or opposition to something that somebody else is saying. We will enforce this because it is important that we do have that this is a forum where everyone is able to speak freely. So please abide by those simple standards of conduct, and we're all going to be good. We have a couple of public hearings, but before we do that, I'll look for a motion regarding the work session minutes of Tuesday, May 7th, 2019, May 21st, 2019, and the formal meeting minutes of Tuesday, June 4th, and Tuesday, June 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Fowler, seconded by Councilmember Rogers. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. The first public hearing that we have tonight, we have a couple of them, but the first one is regarding a street vacation at approximately 144 South, 800 West. And I have one card, it looks like, for somebody who's interested in speaking to this item. If that is different, let me know. Adriana Karras. And so everybody, again, everyone will have 2 minutes to speak and to make their point heard. Start with your name and why you're here.
I'm Adriana, and thanks for the opportunity to come and speak with you tonight. I am the owner of 824 West, 200 South, so I'm fairly close to that. I'm also the first property owner right of refusal of the property next to that 820 West and then the vacant lot that is next to that property. I'm actually not opposed to any of the development. I think it's great. What I want the council to think about is the easement of the freeway that's right there, and the ability for UDOT and your agencies to get in and support the freeway there. I noticed on the map, and I am a little late to the game because I missed some of the meetings due to travel, but that's just an issue for all of us in that area, is the access to be able to let people in. And there's only one driveway on that second south, and so UDOT has to enter into that area through that. So just thoughtful process. Thoughtful about how you're allowing walkways to come along there. There isn't a current walkway. If you live in that area or have people come from that 8th West, and then they get stuck because there's a fence there put in by UDOT many years ago. So I'm not opposed to it. I just want the council to be thoughtful in their process and in making sure that the easements are accessible and available to the community. That's all. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Karras. Would anyone else like to speak to this public hearing? Okay, we have one. Kyle, just fill a card out after you're done.
Sorry I'm late.
Or make Mila fill a card out. Either way.
I don't really want to say too much. The proposal, I think I caught the tail end of this person's question, which was whether you get through at 8th West. And yes, in fact, this development improves permeability throughout the whole Euclid neighborhood by taking down the fence, adding a public park, and creating new sidewalks where there were none before. I have a letter here written by the managing partner of Sugar Space, And to just get to the point, it reads, we're in support of this project. And some of the reasons she cites are the additional availability of parking on 2nd South and additional availability of people being able to access her business by going through the proposed development. And I really appreciate that you're concerned about that. I was too. So I'm going to leave a copy of these letters with you, and there are 7 of them, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. LaMalfa. Would anyone else like to speak to this? Okay, hearing none, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Wharton. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion, or that motion passes, and the meeting is, or the public hearing is closed, and action is deferred to a later date. The next item on our agenda, item number 2, is an ordinance zoning map amendment at 1505 South Main Street for the Alliance House. And this public hearing, I do not have any cards for. Would someone like to speak to this item? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Wharton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The third public hearing is an ordinance regarding a request to vacate section of alley at approximately 1249 East between Crystal Avenue and Stratford Avenue. I have a couple of cards here. First, again, everyone gets 2 minutes. So I will read 2 names out. If you're the second name that I read, just be ready to come up as soon as the first, or the speaker right before you is finished. So the first card is Pam Arasuma, followed by Arnold Clemens. And please correct my pronunciation of your name if I butchered it. It was perfect. Hey, there we go. Meeting is adjourned. No, I'm kidding.
We own a duplex at 1244 and 1246 East Stratford Avenue. We've owned that for close to 35 years, and our duplex faces west, and the alley's right in front of it. And there is a danger to close the Crystal Avenue because of the fact that there is also an alley that runs between Crystal and Stratford East up to 13th East, which comes down and goes into Crystal and Stratford. And at this time, we do not have any little children renting our duplex, but if we, at some point, if this is closed and some point, those people come down that alley and curve over, they could curve over and not see children playing in the front yard. It used to be grass, but my husband blacktopped it because everybody kept pulling out onto the grass to turn and go out. So to make things convenient, he did blacktop that. And for that many years, he has done remodeling at the duplexes for sometimes up to a month or more. And we've never, ever, during that period, had any real danger or anything that would, cause us to worry about somebody coming into the area or anything like that. And so we would like to keep that portion open. Ours, like I said, is the front yard by the alley. Theirs is just garages and stuff, so there really isn't a threat to anyone being in a front yard. And also, we have concern about the alley from Crystal Avenue. It's a public alley, and for the last almost year, the owners of 1249 have put cinder blocks out into the alley, 20 inches. The Salt Lake did a survey of the alley, and their garage is right on the alley. And their thing, and then, so it makes it difficult for people to drive through the alley. And also, there's a lot of people that walk from Crystal through that alley to go to the LDS Church off of Stratford Avenue. Could be dangerous if they're not watching. They could trip on those blocks and stuff. So
Great.
we really need to have that taken care of.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Arasuma. We appreciate those. Arnold Clemens, followed by Coney Ray.
Hello, my name is Arnold Clemens. I live at 2636 South Highland Drive. It's on the southwest corner, and half of the entrance to that alley is butts my property. So I've lived there 27 years, so I don't see any reason to close it. It's fine. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clemens. Coney Ray, followed by, cards are stuck together. Scott Schoonover.
Hi, I am one of the homeowners there and one of the applicants for the closure of the alley. My garage is in the alley, and I would like to see it closed off. So my backyard is the alley. And I have had to now padlock my gate in the backyard because we've had so many people come in, homeless people coming down the alley, leaving shopping carts. I've come home and my fence is open. People have come in and picnicked in my backyard, left all their wrappings from McDonald's and such. Pulling out of my garage, I have had several times near incident of the cars coming through and almost hitting me. And then I have to pull back into the garage because they don't slow down. I feel like for safety reasons, the alley should be closed. It's not really, the way there's the jog in the alley, it's not really in a straight-through alley anyway. You have to, a larger truck has a very difficult time getting through. I would also like to say that the three neighbors that back up to that alley portion have talked and are willing to pay the city for that little piece of property since we maintain it anyway. Where the city doesn't maintain it, I mean, we have had people come in and fill the potholes and re-blacktop and keep that portion very, very nice. And I would like to take it upon ourselves to use this as part of our property and make sure that it makes the city look nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. Scott Schoonover, and followed by Anna Trujillo.
Hi, thank you. I'm Scott Schoonover. I'm the homeowner at 1249 East Crystal Avenue. I'm one of the applicants along with Connie Ray. The reason we went after this initial application is we had a policeman from the city come to our neighborhood because we wanted to get a neighborhood watch group together, and he was the one that really brought up the suggestion, since we've had a lot of crime in our area, of other homeowners taking over city alleyways and trying to incorporate them into their properties to make a more safe environment. So really that's what we're trying to do. We feel like the alleys have become just a major crime corridor throughout the city. They're not being policed, they're not lit, they're not maintained, the security is not happening down the alleys. The only reason our alleyway section looks okay is we actually spend the money to maintain it. The other two sections of alleys are very derelict and in need of some major help. So I think the city needs to take a hard look at their alley closure policy and ask themselves, if we're not going to budget money to maintain city property, then why not allow somebody like me and Connie and the other neighbor that's into it, take over city property, beautify it, and actually make it a safe environment and part of the community. We could just let it go if we really want to and let it become the rest of the community, but we don't want to do that. We actually want to take it over. The other two people that spoke that are against it already have two different ways to go. They can go off of Stratford and they can go on to 1300 East. They already have two different points that they can get out of their alleyways. The alleyways are meant for garages and garages only, not pedestrian corridors. We shouldn't be allowing people to walk through driveways that are 12 feet wide that are totally built for vehicles. So if there's any plan for future walkways or anything through the alleyways, it should be stopped. We have city sidewalks for that, and the city maintains city sidewalks. They do not maintain the alleyways. So I think this alley closure is needed.
Time.
And I think you should look at other ones as well. That makes sense. It's a case-by-case basis, and I think in this case it totally makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schoonover. Anna Trujillo, followed by Ann Thurston.
Hi, Hi, I live at 2617 South Highland, so I'm on the south end of this alleyway. So I want to be clear, I oppose this closure and have since I learned of it. There's two components I want to speak to. In the applicant's letters, the first was public safety, so closing it would increase public safety. I know that there's, been some criminal activity, drug paraphernalia. We've been fortunate to not find that in our part where we drive or where we park. Not saying it hasn't happened, but I'm not understanding how closing the alleyway is going to solve that problem. And furthermore, if alleyways are the cause for criminal activity, why aren't we closing all of them in Salt Lake City? The second piece is lack of use. That was another mention in one of the applications. My husband and I, who's here with me, Michael Lee, he and I use it almost every day. With the exception of the last month, we've been having a yard project that's taking our driveway up, but we do use it. We park there regularly, and we prefer to use that side of the alleyway. We have since we've lived there. So closing it would be inconvenient. It really doesn't make sense. The arguments don't make sense to me. And again, I think the council should consider how alleyways are being kept up. Scott does have a point. Some of them are derelict. But again, closing that one section, I don't understand how that's going to solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hio. Ann Thurston, followed by Rob Kopenhofer.
Hi, I'm at 2607 South Highland, which means my back driveway, my carport goes into this alley. And I guess my two concerns is if we close that part of the alley, that there's been instances where there's been blockages through our main entrance closer to our house, and we've had to go around and get into our parking that way. We also had a large snowstorm where we had a blowout of a tire and we had a donut on and we couldn't get up our side of the alley. It was too steep. So it was very nice being able to go around and have a different entrance into that. I know there's 3 entrances into the alley. It kind of makes a T. And the 2 north and south running sides are really the biggest, widest, and well-kept sides. The third, that would be the hook entrance that this would create, is overgrown, small. For those of us with larger vehicles, that might be an issue. And it does, I do understand the problem of pulling out of your driveway and having a car possibly run into you, but we're on the other side and we have that all the time. We have to just go slow and be careful. So I would just oppose this due to the fact that it's very convenient for my family to be able to get in at different points when there's blockages, when there's snowstorms, things like that. Closing it off seems more of a privilege to one side of the alley and creates a hooked alley with one bad entrance and one good entrance for the rest of us. So that would be my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thurston. Rob Kopenhofer, followed by Joy Badel.
Good evening, council. My name is Bob Kopenhofer. I am for the alley closure. I live across the street from the homeowners on Crystal Avenue, and I front another alley. And it seems like these alleyways are thoroughfares for people who are involved in criminal activity. Our garage has been broken into, a bicycle stolen. We have found drug paraphernalia in our alleyway. And my wife stays up late a lot, and she sees people going through, checking cars, stuff like that. And as far as safety goes on the proposed alleyway closure, I don't think that's an issue. If there are children playing in front of the apartment, visibility coming down the other alleyway is no better than the visibility is in the alleyway that would be closed because of the dog leg. So I just respectfully ask that you seriously consider closing this. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kopenhofer. Joy Badel, followed by Matt O'Connor.
Hi, good evening. Joy Batel, 1257 East Crystal Avenue. I have been a homeowner of 2 different homes on that block for over 25 years. I raised my children there. And in that plus 25 years, we have observed multiple crimes in the alley. One, my kids actually caught somebody trying to steal a trailer from my yard. My stepdaughter heard somebody right over our fence screaming for help because he was being beaten with a baseball bat out in the alley right behind our house. And my son witnessed the getaway car during that crime come right down this southern part of the alley. It's like it was a getaway escape route for this perpetrator. I think closing the alley, having lived there as long as I have, I think closing the alley is brilliant, and I wish that I would have thought of it when my house backed up to that particular alley. I back up to the other alley now. There are two alleys. There's the T that people have talked about. So, the reason that this part of the alley is in good shape is because the neighbors got together and they made it into a nice paved, clean section of the alley. So the other neighbors can certainly do that. Close the alley and allow the people that are the homeowners on the other part of the alley to take care of that alley, as my neighbors have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baytol. Matt O'Connor, followed by Jeanette Zimmer.
Hi, thank you. I'm the homeowner with my wife at 2655 South Highland Drive. We support the closure, the vacate of the alley. Our alley is parallel to the alley that's in question of vacate. There's an increasing amount of crime, and I've got a security camera in the alley. The past year, I have no less than 24 sights of individuals attempting to break into my vehicle. My neighbors have had their bicycles stolen. There's been abandoned bicycles, stolen vehicle in our alley that our other neighbors that aren't here had to take care of. Drug paraphernalia, liquor bottles, lighters. There's too much of an essence coming through the alleys that can't be ignored. I think that's the biggest issue for me is the safety. We open up our garage, and if it's at night, it's get in the car, lock the doors before you open the garage door. So I wholly support vacating the alley, giving it to the property owners and letting them maintain it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Jeanette Zimmer, followed by Katie Ward.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Zimmer. I live at 1249 East Crystal Avenue, so I'm also one of the petitioners. This has been a 2-year-long process that we've gone through, and I understand that a lot of people are against alley closures, but if anyone were to come down our alley, they would immediately realize that our house is dependent on that alley section. It's our only driveway, it's our only way to our backyard, and it's our only way to our back door. My back door sits approximately 6 feet from the side of the alley, and the last incident we had was a crazed-looking person throwing knives in the alley aggressively. I called the police. The police came out and said that it's not illegal to look crazy or crazed, it's not illegal to be a vagrant, and it's not illegal to throw knives. Until he throws a knife at you, there's nothing we can do. The only thing you can do is have this be private property. And this is why we started this whole thing, was a police officer saying this should be private property. Because the way the alley is set up as a T, it's an unusually narrow entrance, and the Arizona's actually, their property, they have got a variance. It actually sits a foot over into the alley than it should. They have a 10-year variance on it. So it snugs it up to my building, so there's only 11 and a half feet for people to pinch through. All these people saying it's more convenient for them. I'm sure it is, because we've stripped it of weeds, we've blacktopped it, and has a new drive approach. So I'm sure it's better than the other two entrances that no one pays attention to. But the reason we do this is because this is actually part of our house. It's our only drive. It's our only walkway to our back door. So having said that, it's very disheartening to go through the process and just know that there's not a alley closure or alley consensus among city employees. There's nothing in place, and it doesn't look like there's going to be anything in place in my lifetime to address this. It's just people are either for it or against it. The thing with our alley closure is it really does not affect anyone on Highland. It doesn't affect anyone on Stratford. There's 2 other entrances that are perfectly fine. That, like other people have said, if they want a clean, great entrance, they can manage it also the way we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zimmer. Katie Ward, followed by Shirley Steinmacher, and that Shirley's is the last, or Steinmacher, sorry, is the last card that I have. So if somebody else would like to speak, fill a card out. or let me know and fill one out after. Okay, Ms.
Hi.
Ward.
Yeah, thank you. Katie Ward. I live at 1288 Crystal Avenue. I'm not adjacent to the alley, but on the street across from it. I've lived there for 2 years now. This has been something that, you know, as neighbors, I think we support, and I want to speak in support of vacating the alley. I love the neighborhood. It's like one of the best places I've ever lived. But in terms of, you know, feeling anxious and feeling nervous about crime, it's like that's an increasing concern for me. Last month, I had an abandoned car adjacent to my property. It was clearly had been, you know, sort of ransacked and left there. There were bullet casings in the front seat, and it took 4 days to, you know, sort of have the process play out of having it ticketed and eventually having it towed. When I pointed out to the tow truck driver that there were bullets in it, he got concerned about towing it away. And I just bring that up as an example of sort of like the kinds of things that are happening in this neighborhood that make all of us who live there concerned about inviting areas where, you know, people are, you know, can kind of drop off the evidence of their crime and, or, you know, criminal behavior in a place that's sort of not seen and not, you know, not easily patrolled. And so I just think given the structure of the neighborhood, kind of the dead-end streets that happen there around the little 13th East, and that, you know, this becomes a thoroughfare that needs, it needs the safety and protection that the homeowners can provide.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Ward. Shirley Steinmacher.
Hi, you guys know my name, Shirley Steinmacher. I'm at 1256 East Crystal Avenue, and we're across from the alley that is in question here. And we're also on an alley, the same alley that continues through. And we've been there since 2001. And like them, we have spent countless hours over the years fixing up our alley because the city doesn't do it. The city doesn't fill our potholes, we do. The city doesn't maintain it, and Google Fiber came through and trashed it and paved it horribly, and no one did anything about that, including Google Fiber, who I had engaged for a long time. But again, we are one of the homes that has no driveway, and it is our driveway. And it's tiny and narrow, and it was designed before cars were meant to be driving through there on a regular basis. It's more of a pedestrian zone, and I am all for vacating the alley. And I believe that if the homeowners can still use it as our driveway, because it is our driveway, and everyone on my alley is in support of closing the alley. So we find needles, baggies, beer bottles, smashed glass. My bicycle was stolen out of my garage because it is the way into my garage, is the alley. All they have to do is open the back gate, and we've locked it. We've done everything we can think of, and it's pretty easy to get in once you're in the alley, into our yard and into our garage. And you can't see it because it's on the other side of the garage. Anyway, I work late at night. I see cars slowly cruising through my alley on a regular basis. And Matt, who spoke, I'm not sure if he said this, but he has camera photographs of somebody checking his door just about every night. So his car. So it's crime, pedestrians, and driveway. And I support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steinmacher. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Actually, no, because so we don't do rebuttals, so everyone gets 2 minutes. So, thank you. All right, hearing none, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move we close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Rogers, second by Councilmember Johnston. Any discussion of this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. That item has been deferred to a future date. Before we go to our next public hearing, I want to jump forward a little bit and look for a motion from my council colleagues, if someone would be willing to move the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so a motion by Councilmember Rogers, seconded by Councilmember Wharton. to move the consent and adopt the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
The consent, any opposed? The agenda, or the consent agenda has been approved. So now we'll go back to our next public hearing, which is an ordinance regarding 2058 North, 200 West zoning map amendment. I have one card on this one. Nathan Stainsbury. Nathan, are you here? Yes. Okay, so same drill. You get 2 minutes, and if anyone else would like to speak, fill a card out and hand it to one of our staff on the sides.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Nathan B. Sainsbury. I'm here to voice my opposition in the rezoning of 2058 North, 2200 West property to M1. This land has been in my family for decades. 9 years ago, I was able to purchase the house and land I currently reside from, the matriarch of my family, which was my grandmother. 46 years ago, I was carried through the doors of the house I now own. That's a pretty big deal to me. I have roots deeper than most of the trees in the area. The rezoning of this property is of great concern to me, as it will impose what I may think be a monumental impact on me. As it surrounds me on 3 sides, it'd affect my everyday quality of life. I've talked with Mr. Salmon over a couple of things. He hasn't said what he's going to do, but concern is questionable tenants, increased traffic, increased noise. We're in a great economy today, and I'm absolutely worried about it, what it would do to my property value, as I am surrounded. As the years and days pass by, we've all seen substantial change all around us, wherever you look. The reason I live where I live is because of heritage, the style of open space, and as it's been my ground zero my whole life. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sainsbury. Any other individuals interested in speaking to this item? Hearing none, I'll look to my colleagues.
Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rogers, seconded by Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously and will be heard at a future date. The next item is an ordinance regarding revised FBUN2 building height zoning text amendment. I don't have any cards for this one. Is there anybody in the audience interested in speaking? Hearing none. This is the FBUN2 building height zoning text piece. It's item number 5 on the agenda, and then there's item number 6. That's the other public hearing that we have. And then, does it fit with one of those 2 items, sir?
It is the building height.
The building height? Okay, yeah, that's this one here. So if you could just make your comments, you have 2 minutes, and then fill a card out just so that we have record of it.
My name's Greg Chamberlain.
Okay.
The petition is for my property. We're here to hear the decision one way or the other. I think it would be wise to accept it or to pass it, the motion on, for economic reasons. I also own Kaiser's Barbecue just right around the block there, and the more people that we have in the neighborhood, the better. So anyway, you know why I'm here and what I'm talking about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. So we are set to take action on this item next week, so we won't be voting on it tonight. We'll be voting next week. But tonight was the final public hearing, so your timing was good. So, anyone else interested in speaking to this item? Hearing none.
Mr. Chair,
Councilmember Fowler.
I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Motion by Councilmember Fowler, second by Councilmember Valdemoros. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. And our final scheduled public hearing is item number 6, a grant application for 2020 State Asset Forfeiture Grant Program. And I don't have any cards on this one either. Would someone like to speak to this?
Mr. Chair, I move that sorry.
Nope. You're good. Go ahead.
I move that we close the public hearing and refer item B6 to a future consent agenda for action.
Motion by Councilmember Wharton, second by Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion to this item? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously. The item is referred to a future date. The next item that we have are questions from the mayor to the council. I don't have anything right now. Does anyone else have anything? Okay, so now we will open up for our regular public comment. If you would like to address this one, this does not have a topic. You can talk to us about anything. Rules are the same, 2-minute requirement. Looks like Cindy Lou does have a couple of cards here, so. Thank you. You're good. Okay, the first card is Ashley Fine, followed by Kennedy Stoner.
Hello, and thank you. My name's Ashley Fine, and I'm really here to express my gratitude to the mayor's office. I'm here to express my gratitude to Mayor Jackie Biskupski and the many men and women from the Salt Lake City that worked tirelessly to bring my friend Mackenzie Lewick home. Although this was not the outcome that we had hoped for, we have comfort in finding her and having answers and closure. And I'm going to pass along my time to Kennedy.
Okay, so Ashley, so Kennedy, you're next? Okay, perfect. So Kennedy, and then after Kennedy, we have Beth Fine.
Hi, I'm here also to express gratitude to the council. I'm from District 3. Kenzie also lived right next to me in District 3. I would like to thank the men and women here for being a huge support and spending countless hours searching for Mackenzie. Although we did not receive the news we hoped for, we did find closure in knowing where she was and that she is no longer suffering. I feel hopeful for the future and have discovered a huge passion for helping others and other missing persons. Ashley and I want to continue to advocate and help others who are or who have dealt with this sort of pain. We ask for your support and seek your advice throughout the years when it comes to our nonprofit, Mackenzie's Voice. We appreciate your time for letting us speak today, and thank you for being such a great council.
Thank you, Ms. Stoner. Beth Fine, followed by Jeff Bear.
Thank you, Council. My name is Beth Fine. My property is at 742 East Raleigh Drive. And I just want to thank the taxpayers of Salt Lake City County. This was a huge undertaking to look for this missing girl when there was no evidence of someone missing. And we just want to thank everyone who supported the search, the community at large, and most importantly, our local police force who has gone beyond anything. And I just want to recognize them for the efforts that they have put in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fine. Jeff Bear, followed by Aaron Johnson. And Aaron's card is the last card that I have. So if you would like to address the council, please fill out a yellow card.
Hello again. I'm here once again to talk about scooters. And the reason I'm talking about it is because I was told that the city is in the middle of reworking the agreements with all the scooter companies. So all 3 scooters that are currently operating in the city, they have little teeny text on them that says, Bird says no riding on sidewalks, Lime says do not ride on sidewalk or block traffic, and Spin says ride on the road. They're hidden. They're at the bottom. As the city is reworking the agreements, I think the city should put forth that the scooter company is required to put it on the handlebars where everybody looks, everybody sees, there's plenty of space you can see on all the handlebars, and I think it really should be put on the handlebars because they're still riding all over the sidewalks. Every single day I walk to and from work, and there's scooters flying down the sidewalks. Second, this is the third time I'm commenting on slot homes. So here is an article from Denver discussing slot homes, and it talks about how Denver banned slot homes after 20 years, and it shows what they have put forth as the changes. And after that article is the actual executive summary for the slot home amendment that Denver put forward and approved. There's another development just approved in my neighborhood. There's going to be 2 blank walls facing the street. As one neighbor said, they look like storage unit buildings. There's no interaction with the community, the sidewalk. Planning is currently working on some amendments. They said the problem, though, is that it often takes years for it to get approved. So I'm no longer asking, I'm begging, and I'm pleading with you. Please. You can shape the future of our city. And as Denver, after 20 years, they said, this is enough. Our neighbors are complaining.
Time.
Our community is complaining. Let's please address it now before it becomes an issue in Salt Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Bear.
Thank you.
Aaron Johnson. Mr. Johnson, if you want to come forward, you have 2 minutes.
I'll start my stopwatch. Of course, you all know who I am, Charlie Luke, and the council. I find it amusing that after 5 years of being censored on the Facebook council's site, that you decided to have an amendment that you want to change your unconstitutional behavior, because evidently you're changing that behavior because you've notified the federal court in the litigation you're engaged in. And I find that interesting that you would change that behavior, but not rectify the situation of that 5 years. But further, today a motion was filed challenging on the face everything that you're doing because it continues to violate constitutional speech, because offensive speech can't be banned. And your particular policy is overbroad and vague and doesn't address that. So that is a problem that I think that you guys have. But one of the concerns that I have, about the council is that you're supposed to be in, the edifice of democracy and represent the rights of the Constitution. And I know the city has a lot of things they do well and they do fine. But one of the things that you haven't done is protect free speech, specifically, Mr. Wharton and other individuals. I'd call you out, Mr. Wharton, because you're actually my district councilman, so that's why I call you out. But, even the policy that you're putting forward has already been facially challenged in court today because it fails to address, what offensive speech is, but also that offensive speech can't be blocked. These are things that this city has already retread a number of times. What are public forums? What is forum analysis? What is permitted speech? Those types of things. It's like my case is a recrimination for the failures and the losses that you've already had in the appellate court. So I'm concerned about that. So, and I have that for you, Mr. Luke, that thing that was filed today, because I've given
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. If you want to hand that to
Sure, you got it.
Nick,
Absolutely.
he'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the council? Seeing none, we've done the consent agenda. This meeting is adjourned.
Nice.